Hello and welcome to American Catholic History, brought to you by the support of listeners like you. If you value this podcast, please follow us, give us good ratings, and please become a supporter at americancatholichistory.org/support. I'm Noelle Heaster-Crowe.
And I'm Tom Crow.
Today, we're talking about a place that, I can't believe I had never heard of before. It's the site of the largest annual pilgrimage in the United States, El Santuario de Chimayo in northern New Mexico. This is a site we both have visited on pilgrimage.
Yes, I've been there 3 times on pilgrimages, and I'm glad you were able to join on one of them. Chimayo is included in our itinerary to Santa Fe and northern New Mexico. 5 days in the rugged, haunting beauty of the high desert, with a lot of it spent in the very historic city of Santa Fe. We've told a number of stories about the region, and we will tell more.
We'd love to get back there because it really is a beautiful place, and there is so much Catholic history in northern New Mexico.
There really is. Santa Fe itself has a number of oddists. Santa Fe is the oldest city that is a U.S. state capital. It has the oldest statue of the Blessed Mother in the U.S. It has the oldest church in the U.S., and right around the corner from that church is the oldest house in the U.S. Because of all this antiquity, the area really has a story to tell about how Catholicism and the native cultures sort of clashed and meshed over the last 400 plus years. Today's story has a bit of both, plus a tremendous amount of modern devotion.
It's got all that. But the particular site we're talking about, Chimayo, is north of Santa Fe, about 28 miles by car, and it is along the Santa Cruz River, which flows into the Rio Grande not too far away in Española. What this means is the area has some of the best soil in the region for agriculture, so it has been inhabited for a very long time.
So part of this story goes back to long before the Spanish arrived in the early 1600s. Pueblo Indians who had lived here for centuries believed that the hot springs in the area had healing powers. They, of course, attributed this to some god or other, and so they considered it to be a sacred site. They named one of the hills overlooking the town Chimayo, and from that hill the entire area became known as Chimayo. The springs eventually dried up, but the Indians, the natives, believed that the healing powers resided in the dirt that they left behind.
When Catholic Hispanics moved into the area in the 18th century, many families settled along the Santa Cruz River because of its fertile soil and the supply of water, a rare thing around there. One of the towns within the Chimayo community became known as Potrero, which means pasture in Spanish.
This Chimayo community was made up of a series of villages, and the villages tended to be just a few families. Many of these families would build chapels on their property for devotional purposes. Priests would occasionally come to these family chapels, and family members would be buried in the graveyard near the chapel. One of these families, the Abetas, had something special happen. The patriarch of the family, Don Bernardo Abeta, was outside on the night of Good Friday in 1810. In the distance, he saw a light coming from a hill near the river on his family's property. He went to the spot and dug in the ground with his bare hands and unearthed a 6-foot-tall carved wooden cross. Where it came from, no one knew, but Don Bernardo considered it to be a depiction of the crucified Christ known as Our Lord of Esquipulas.
Our Lord of Esquipulas was a devotion that came from Guatemala. The original crucifix of Our Lord of Esquipulas was also associated with miraculous healings, and the people in Chimayo had brought this devotion with them to New Mexico. So when Don Bernardo found what he believed to be a miraculous cross of Esquipulas in his hillside, he wrote to the priest of the nearest mission, which was Santa Cruz, about 15 miles away. The priest came and saw the cross and believed it to be worthy of veneration. So he brought it back to the mission church at Santa Cruz and placed it above the altar. But the next morning, it was gone. It was found back where it had originally been dug up. Father took it back to Santa Cruz again, and again it returned to the hillside in Chimayo. This was repeated a few more times before the priest finally agreed that maybe the cross should just remain where it was found.
He finally took the hint. Don Bernardo built a small chapel in 1810, and as word spread of the cross and its miraculous appearance, pilgrims started coming. As we said, the area where it had been found had already been known for miraculous healing dirt by the Pueblos. Many of the pueblos had become Catholic through the evangelization of the Jesuits and Franciscan missionaries, so the idea that the real God, Jesus Christ, would sanctify this particular area by coming to them there made sense to them.
And then the cross was associated with our Lord of Esquipulas, which was known for healings. So the people came, Catholic and non-Catholic.
By 1813, the number of pilgrims flocking to Chimayo had already grown so great that the priest at Santa Cruz Mission wrote to the bishop way down in Durango in central Mexico for permission to build a larger chapel. Permission came in 1814, and the new, larger church was completed in 1816. This is the chapel which stands today. It is built in typical mission church style, with 3-foot-thick adobe walls covered with mud plaster. It is about 60 feet long and 24 feet wide. The ceiling is at least 12 feet high. The main altarpiece and the two on the sides of the nave are decorated in a classic native style, and the original wooden crucifix that Don Bernardo dug up is featured in the center of the main altarpiece.
But off in the next room is where the interest really lays. Through a door to the left side of the sanctuary, you have access to 2 small rooms. The first is about 8 feet wide, and it goes most of the length of the church back toward the front end of the church. This room is plastered with photos of individuals who have received miracles, plus scads of crutches, braces, canes, and other items that were left behind by people who, well, no longer needed them.
And the source of the miracles and prayers answered are in a tiny room next door. Just off that first room with all the pictures and crutches is a smaller room. This one is only about 8 foot square. Most people have to duck to enter because the doorway is only about 5 feet high. The room is called the Pocito, which means little well in Spanish. In the center of the floor of the Pocito is a hole that goes down to the original ground. This hole marks the place where Don Bernardo Ebeta found the original cross in 1810. And it is where, since 1810, pilgrims have been taking up dirt and either rubbing it on their body or ingesting it in hope of a physical cure, or they put it into a container and take it with them for someone else in need.
Now, the obvious question is how the little well hasn't become a massive hole in the ground, since pilgrims have been coming and taking dirt for, well, over 210 years.
Yeah, the answer is that locals who maintain the santuario go into the nearby hillsides regularly and bring back buckets of sifted dirt. It is a very fine, reddish, powdery earth. With this, they replenish the Pocito as often as needed. That could mean once a day. It could mean multiple times a day during peak pilgrimage season. Estimates vary, but about 25 to 30 tons of dirt is brought to the Pocito annually.
Now, that huge amount is needed every year because we're not just talking just a few pilgrims each year for the past 215 plus years. During Holy Week alone, upwards of 300,000 pilgrims visit the sanctuario.
300,000 people visiting just during that week. Having been there, I cannot imagine how that many people cram through that tiny church, and especially how that many people get into the Pocito. It is tiny.
It is. When we were there, it was a very light crowd, no more than a dozen other people. Of course, it was raining pretty hard that day.
Right. What's funny is, of the 3 times I've been there, it has rained hard on 2 of them. This is a region that gets very, very little rain annually, so I don't know, maybe I'm just bad luck.
Possibly, but it was sunny the first time you went.
It was. It was actually a really gorgeous day. There were a couple other pilgrimage groups about the same size as ours, about 19 people, plus a handful of families and couples. It was very easy to move around the grounds, and there was no problem getting into the Pocito.
Yeah, I agree with you. I can't imagine being there with 300,000 people coming through. And it seems one of the annual miracles of Chimayo may be just that, getting so many people through, even if only a fraction of them actually get into the Pocito.
The pilgrims come from all over the United States, and even from around the globe, to make a pilgrimage to Chimayo during Holy Week.
And not all of the pilgrims drive up and park in the parking lot.
Which is good, because the parking lot is not that large. When you consider such a crowd, I mean, if you would need an enormous parking lot.
Yep.
But loads of the pilgrims actually come on foot. And not just from the local villages. Many of the walkers come 40 miles from Santa Fe, and some even make the trek all the way from Albuquerque, which is a full 90-mile walk.
And it isn't like the climate is the most hospitable either. It is dry and usually hot. Fortunately, the pilgrimage happens around Easter before the real heat of summer comes, but this is still the high desert. hot and dry.
Fortunately, many people line the pilgrimage routes, passing out water and providing food to aid the pilgrims on their journey.
Just a remarkable testimony to faith and community activity in support of their faith.
Yeah, the grounds nowadays have so much more than just the main chapel and the Pocito. There's a very nice shrine to Our Lady of Lavang, which is the major Vietnamese apparition of Our Lady. Plus, there is, of course, a shrine to Our Lady of Guadalupe, as well as a lovely statue depicting Our Lady who is very obviously pregnant. And then, of course, there's a gift shop and a cafeteria.
Well, of course, pilgrims need mementos and food, and the shrine needs to pay bills.
Right.
Yeah.
The website for the Santuario has a number of accounts of miraculous healings and other favors granted, including cancers and tumors that miraculously disappeared, other ailments, and even emotional and mental illnesses. Due to the massive number of pilgrims, plus the record of miraculous healings that many attribute to the holy dirt, some call Chimayo the Lourdes of America.
Well, that's quite a claim. Lourdes gets about 6 million pilgrims annually, so Chimayo has a long way to go to catch up. But if that many healings are coming about at Chimayo, well, the site deserves some attention and high praise.
Also, as mentioned, the climate isn't exactly as favorable as that in southern France.
No, plus it's just harder to get to. There just aren't as many major population centers within an easy day of travel as there are at Lourdes.
No, not at all. But this brings us to a major reason why Chimayo gets as many pilgrims as it does. The penitentes.
Yes, the penitentes are a very important part of the story of Catholicism in New Mexico, particularly northern New Mexico, and they're the ones who organize and undertake the major walking pilgrimages to Chimayo. We'll likely do a standalone episode about the penitentes because they have such a fascinating history in Catholic New Mexico.
Yeah, they're kind of like the Knights of Columbus. They do service projects and they take care of widows and orphans. And there's also some aspects of trusteeism going on with them. But they're neither knights nor trustees. They're different from both in certain ways.
Yeah, so they definitely warrant their own episode at some point. But we'll give a thumbnail sketch of who they are and what they do.
Sure. The penitentes are lay Hispanic and Native men of New Mexico who are members of Los Hermanos de la Fraternidad Piadosa de Nuestro Padre Jesus Nazareno, or the Brothers of the Pious Fraternity of Our Father Jesus the Nazarene. They're a private organization that keeps to itself and actively avoids publicity or public displays for their inner workings. They're not a secret society in the sense that bishops and priests are welcome to attend all of their activities, but they are very private. They rose at the same time the faith was becoming accepted and established in New Mexico, but the number of priests was small and shrinking. They served as sort of elders in the faith to help maintain the faith among the people and generally to help other people through works of Christian charity. These works often are unexpected, and the identity of the benefactors not generally known.
There is a lot more to say about them, but among their fraternal obligations is taking part in the annual pilgrimage to Chimayo. Members who might have moved away are not relieved of their obligation. They are expected, on their honor and by their solemn promise as a penitente, to return to the region to take part in the pilgrimage.
And this is a big part of why the Chimayo pilgrimage draws people from all over the place every year.
But it's not the only reason.
No. Chimayo really is a special place. There is a sacred peace in that place. It would draw pilgrims from a distance even without the penitentes, though probably not as many.
Well, maybe it'll draw pilgrims to join a trip that we, could put together in the next year or two.
Yeah, maybe.
Chimayo remains a simple, peaceful, and beautiful place of worship and pilgrimage in one of America's most historic Catholic areas. Healing and faith have been found there for more than 200 years, and with God's grace, these will be found there for hundreds more. If you're in Santa Fe, or if you're looking for a place to plan a pilgrimage, put the sanctuary of Chimayo on your list, and let the Lord draw you into a deeper relationship with Him in this hauntingly beautiful land. This has been American Catholic History. If you enjoy American Catholic History, please become a supporter. We've got great perks for supporters. Get information on how to become a supporter and the perks at americancatholichistory.org/support.
Also on our website, sign up for our newsletter, learn more about El Santuario de Chimayo, see about our pilgrimages, and find other great stories from American Catholic history.
We also love the great reviews our listeners leave. Those and the 5-star ratings help others find us. You can email us feedback, questions, tips for episode topics, or other comments at feedback@americancatholichistory.org. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/American Catholic History, on Instagram at ACH_podcast, and follow us on Twitter at ACH1513. I'm Noelle Heaster-Crow.
And I'm Tom Crow.
Thank you once again for joining us on American Catholic History, made possible by listeners like you.